She picked up the phone to fire her housekeeper. But when a little boy's voice answered and spoke just 5 words, everything she believed about success came crashing down. Rebecca Hayes ran her company like clockwork. Every minute accounted for. Every meeting prepped down to the second. From the 38th floor of her Chicago office tower, she could see the whole city spread out below her, organized, relentless, exactly like her. It was a Monday morning. She'd already closed a 7-figure deal before 10 a.m. Now she sat behind her glass desk scrolling through household staff reports while her assistant, Grace, hovered by the door. "Something wrong?" Rebecca asked, not looking up. "It's about the house, ma'am," Grace said. "Elena hasn't shown up in 3 days. No call, no text. Nothing." Rebecca's jaw tightened. Elena Ruiz had cleaned her townhouse twice a week for the past 4 years. Reliable. Quiet. Never a single complaint. "Terminate her contract," Rebecca said flatly. Grace hesitated. "Maybe you should call her first. Just to hear what happened." Rebecca sighed, grabbed the sticky note with the number, and dialed. She rehearsed her words: professional, firm, final. The phone rang 3 times. Then a small voice answered. "Hello?" Rebecca blinked. "Is Elena there?" A pause. Then, softly, "Mommy's really sick. She can't come to the phone." Rebecca sat up straight. "Who is this?" "I'm Danny," the boy said. "I'm 6. Are you Mommy's boss?" Something in Rebecca's chest tightened, though she couldn't explain why. "She tried to go to work," Danny added quietly. "But she couldn't get up today." Rebecca didn't know what to say. She had let go of dozens of employees in her career without blinking. But right now, she wasn't talking to a housekeeper who'd missed her shift. She was talking to a little boy trying to protect his mother. "Is she gonna get in trouble?" Danny asked. "She said her boss would be mad." Rebecca's throat went tight. "No," she said slowly. "She's not in trouble." There was rustling on the line. "I made her toast," Danny said. "And I put a blanket on her. I can come clean your house if you need me to. I'm little but I'm fast." Rebecca closed her eyes. The image hit her like a punch to the chest, a 6-year-old boy stepping into his mother's job because there was no one else. "You don't have to do that, sweetheart," Rebecca said, her voice softer than it had been in years. "But we need the money," Danny said. 5 words. 5 words that cut straight through every wall Rebecca had built over 20 years of boardrooms and bottom lines. Rebecca's own childhood hadn't been easy either, but she'd buried it under decades of blazers and stock options. She'd told herself that people who didn't show up simply didn't care enough. Sitting in her glass office with its skyline view, she realized how wrong she'd been. "Danny," she said gently. "What's wrong with your mom? Why can't she get up?" "I don't know," Danny said, his voice cracking. "She got really dizzy last night and fell down. She's sleeping now. No mention of a hospital. No emergency contact. Just a child, alone, doing his best." "I need your address," Rebecca said. "I'm coming to check on her." "Is that okay?" Silence. Then, in the smallest voice, "Are you gonna be mad?" "No," Rebecca said firmly. "I promise I'm not." "Okay," Danny whispered. "I'll wait by the door." Rebecca didn't tell her assistant where she was going. She didn't call her driver. She grabbed her coat, took the elevator down herself, and drove her own car for the first time in years. The address led to a rundown apartment complex on the south side, the kind of neighborhood she hadn't set foot in since before her first company. She parked under a flickering streetlight and looked up at a window with a hand-drawn paper heart taped inside it. The hallway smelled like old carpet and dish soap. She knocked on apartment 4B. The door creaked open. A small boy peeked out, messy dark hair, an oversized t-shirt, eyes wide with a kind of hope that hurt to look at. "You came," Danny said, like he hadn't quite believed anyone would. "I did," Rebecca said. Inside, the apartment was small but tidy, worn at the edges but cared for. A kettle sat cold on the stove. On a thin mattress in the corner lay Elena, pale, her breathing shallow, one hand pressed to her stomach. She didn't look like someone who'd skipped work. She looked like someone barely holding on. Danny knelt beside her. "Mommy, she's here." Elena's eyes fluttered open. When she saw Rebecca standing in her living room, she tried to sit up. "Ms. Hayes, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to." "Don't," Rebecca said, stepping forward. "Don't apologize." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't want to lose this job. It's the only steady thing we have." Rebecca pulled the one kitchen chair over and sat beside her. "You don't have to explain anything right now." She turned to Danny. "Have you eaten today, buddy?" Danny hesitated. "I had cereal. But we're almost out of milk." Rebecca checked the kitchen. A few cans, some rice, an empty milk carton. She thought about the catered lunches she threw away every week without a second thought, and something in her chest ached. Rebecca called in a favor, one of the city's top house call doctors, the kind who usually treated senators and tech founders. She examined Elena carefully. "She's severely dehydrated, and this looks like a serious infection," the doctor told Rebecca quietly. "She needs fluids and antibiotics right away. Honestly, she should be hospitalized." "Then hospitalize her," Rebecca said. "I'll cover everything." "She's been avoiding the ER, the doctor said. She's terrified of the bill." Rebecca's jaw clenched. Terrified of a bill. Well, she'd just closed a deal worth more than this entire building. "Do whatever she needs," she said. "Send it all to me." The doctor set up in 4 right there in the apartment. Before she left, she placed a hand on Rebecca's shoulder. "You may have saved her life today, just by showing up." Those words stayed with her long after the doctor had gone. Because they weren't only about Elena. They were about every name on every payroll report she'd ever signed without really seeing the person behind it. Rebecca didn't go back to the office that day. Or the next. She came back to apartment 4B with groceries, real groceries, fruit, soup, fresh bread, and a box of cookies that made Danny's whole face light up. "You didn't have to do all this," Elena said, trying weakly to sit up. "I know," Rebecca said, unpacking the bags anyway. "I wanted to." By Thursday, Elena could stand. By the weekend, she smiled when she heard Rebecca's knock. Danny started waiting by the door with a drawing, or a question, or a story he'd made up just for her. Rebecca stopped wearing her blazers on these visits. She traded her heels for sneakers. She helped Danny with his spelling homework at the kitchen table while Elena rested on the couch, watching them with quiet wonder. For the first time in years, Rebecca felt something she hadn't felt in her glass office on the 38th floor. She felt human. She felt needed. One evening, as Rebecca folded a blanket Danny had dragged out for pillow fort time, Elena watched her from the couch. "You've changed," she said quietly. Rebecca looked up. "How so?" "You used to be the kind of boss people were scared of. I never thought you'd even notice if I disappeared." Rebecca took a slow breath. "Neither did I." "Why us?" Elena asked. "Why now?" Rebecca glanced over at Danny, humming to himself while coloring at the table. "Because that little boy picked up the phone," she said, "and reminded me I still had a heart." Elena's eyes softened. "You do. And it's a good one." Rebecca stood and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "I don't want this to be temporary," she said. "I want to keep being part of your lives, if you'll let me." Elena stared at her, stunned. "Are you sure?" "For the first time in my life," Rebecca said, "I am." Danny looked up from his coloring. "Does that mean you're like our family now?" Rebecca knelt beside him. "If you'll have me." Danny threw his arms around her neck. Elena wiped her eyes and, this time, didn't bother hiding the tears. That night, after saying goodnight, Rebecca sat in her car outside the apartment for a long while, watching the light glow behind the worn curtain of 4B. She thought about every deal she'd ever closed, every boardroom where her word had meant everything, every tower she'd helped build, and how none of it had ever made her feel what she felt right now. Seen. Connected. whole. She no longer cared much for the titles that used to define her: CEO, founder, self-made millionaire. Tonight, she was just a woman who had shown up, and found something real waiting on the other side of a door. Family. Purpose. Love. She made herself a quiet promise, not just to come back, but to stay. To be there for report cards and doctor's visits, for bad days and good ones, for a boy who once said 5 words that changed everything. This wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of a life she never knew she needed. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button, drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this one. See you in the next story.